And based on where I lived, there was one taking place not too far from where I live, and that's pretty far from Minneapolis, and so it kind of spread to other areas outside of where the incident happened.
Okay. Do you think there's a difference between a riot and a protest?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Can you see the difference between the protests that occurred after Mr. Floyd's death and the riots that took place?
Yes.
Do you think that they're one and the same?
No.
You were asked about past, your observations or your own personal past police contacts, and you were asked the question, have you ever personally seen the police use more force than was needed? You wrote yes, and you wrote, I wouldn't say more force, but I have seen more officers respond to a situation than I thought should or needed to. A teenager, unarmed, nothing in hands but a water bottle, get addressed at a park regarding his actions. Over 4 officers showed up. I felt like he was being harassed. That's what you wrote.
Yep.
Can you just tell me a little bit more about that situation?
I was out in the parks walking with my girlfriend, and we were sitting on a bench, and a young man came walking down the path, tennis shoes. All he had in the water is a water bottle, and a lady came up and was yelling at him, and then pretty soon a cop showed up, and we're in where the playground is for younger kids, and pretty soon there was 4 cops there. And I'm thinking, he is unarmed, he's got a water bottle, I don't understand, and it was in a public place. You're causing, to me, undue, they could have taken him someplace where it was less public to make such, whatever happened. He ended up walking away.
Okay. So you just thought that more officers showed up, they kind of harassed the kid, or young man, I should say, and it was an unnecessary police response. Would that be a fair summary?
I would agree, yes.
Is there anything about that situation that would affect your view of this case? Like, would you say, so many officers showed up on this case?
I wouldn't know that. I only know what that little clip showed me. I don't even know how many officers were there, how many showed up. I'm just witnessing based on what my incident was at the park, and this was after the incident, and I think cops are probably on edge right now. They're looked at the microscope, and that's too bad, because that's not their role. They're here to protect us, and it's just too bad that I witnessed that particular incident on a young boy with just a water bottle in his hand. I mean, if he had anything that I felt in his hand that was a threat, then I totally agree with the number of officers that showed up.
Okay, fair enough. There were a list of several kind of broad statements, and you were asked to sort of rank your opinion of these statements from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Okay?
Okay.
So my question is about just a couple of those I want to follow up. You were asked the question, police in my community make me feel safe, and you check the box, I somewhat agree with that. Can you explain your thinking there?
That was just based off that incident that I'd seen in the park.
Okay. You were asked the question, police in this country treat whites and blacks equally, and you somewhat disagreed with that.
I think it's really based on the officer and their opinions and how they address people. I know without personal experience, but I've just heard that some officers aren't the best and they don't treat everybody equally, and I think they should. Doesn't matter who they are, they should treat everybody the same. Whether they pull them over for this, they pull them over for that. We shouldn't have, based on your racial and how you look, determine how you get treated when you get pulled over.
Okay, fair enough. you were asked your opinions on both Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter, and I believe you sort of have the same response, at least generally. You're right. I believe all lives matter. Doesn't matter the color of their skin or nationality they are. All lives matter, underlined.
I truly believe that.
But yet your opinion of Black Lives Matters was somewhat unfavorable. Why would that be?
I'm not sure why I answered that, because I still strongly believe that all lives matter. It doesn't matter who they are, what they are. They all matter. We're all important.
Now, I know your employment takes you, or you work in a clinic setting.
Correct.
And I'm assuming with doctors and nurses, and you have relationships with doctors and nurses in a professional context.
Correct.
If you were a juror on this case, would you call up one of your doctor or nurse friends and say, this is what these doctors are saying?
Absolutely not.
Okay. You did initially, I just want to make sure I heard correctly, you initially had some concerns about your employment and finances and things like that. That's all been taken care of, I'm assuming?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. The last question you were asked as a part of this questionnaire is, do you want to serve as a juror on this case? And you checked the box, not sure. You are nervous. You wrote, I'm nervous. I've never been a juror before, and to be on such a high-profile case. Would people know I am a juror on this case during or after? Question. Would I be safe? Question. During and after. I don't want to walk around or be in my home and not feel safe. That's what you wrote.
Yep.
So let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions on that. How did you feel when you came down to the government center and saw sort of the fortifications, for lack of a better word, around the area?
A little concerned, but there wasn't as many there as I anticipated to be, so that made me feel better. But knowing that there's so much security here, I feel better, and the fact that the jurors are not going to be, names aren't going to be released before, during, or hopefully a while after. Being as I'm new to this, I didn't know what to expect, and so I just was voicing my opinion because I just didn't know what I didn't know.
Sure.
So
now that you have seen how we're dealing with this situation, you know your anonymity is, we're attempting to protect your anonymity, you feel more comfortable and willing to serve?
yes.
You may have a moment?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Slisher.
Sorry, I was grabbing some water. I didn't realize they quieted for a second.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Noticed on your questionnaire you indicated one of your hobbies is motorcycle riding.
That's correct.
Right? Can you tell me about that a little bit?
I have a 2019 Southdale Heritage Classic, and I like to ride
Nice.
whenever I can.
Okay. Do you, just within the state, or do you travel?
Being it's just recently new, so I just strictly stay within the Twin Cities kind of metropolitan outskirts area. Not a lot of riding I do.
Haven't ventured out to Sturgis or anything?
No. Not recently. Many years ago I did, but
All right. One more. And what got you interested in motorcycle riding?
what interests me?
Yes.
My late husband was really into it, so I got my license just to make sure that if anything happened to him, I could still ride. And I ride with him, kind of now in the spirit. So,
Well, thank you for telling us about that. You were asked some questions about the difference between a protest and a riot, and you said you understood there is a difference. What I would like to ask you is if you can tell us in your own words, as best you can, what is the difference in your mind between a protest and a riot?
a protest is somebody walking around with signs who made note of a particular topic or interest, and a riot is one when they actually do harm to buildings to cause attention.
And you said that there were some riots or property damage that happened fairly close to your residence, is that right?
Correct.
What went through your mind when this was all unfolding?
I'm concerned that it was going to come into my neighborhood and wondered what do I do during that circumstance. And I guess I just was concerned that what do I do? Do I call the police? Would that, put salt in the wound? Do I just let them do their thing? I mean, I think with anybody, it was the question, how do they handle it if it comes close to them?
And what did you ultimately do?
Nothing. I stayed in my home and did nothing and hoped that it didn't come.
Did that work out?
It did.
You didn't suffer any property damage or anything like that?
No, sir, it did not.
And did any of your friends, neighbors, relatives suffer any property damage?
No.
You indicated that you watched the video one time, but you had not watched it since because you found it disturbing. Is that right?
To be clear, I've never watched the full thing.
Okay.
So I don't even know what happened after I heard him say something. I totally shut it off. So I've never seen the whole video in its full entirety.
And you shut it off specifically because you found it disturbing.
Correct.
But you've indicated that, if that's something that you had to view again, you would be able to do that.
I would have to.
Taking you back to your description of the incident you saw at the park in which you believe that officers used too much force, you recall that?
Correct, yes.
Do you recall the race of the individual against whom you believe they used too much force?
The individual, the boy, was white. Not that that made any difference to me, but it was just the fact that there were so many officers.
And you felt that under the circumstances, they just simply over-responded?
Correct.
And I just want to go over again the conversation that you had with defense counsel about your views of Black Lives Matter. And you indicated that you had a somewhat unfavorable view of Black Lives Matter, and said you weren't really sure why you wrote that, the unfavorable view. Can
No,
you upon reflection?
I still really don't know where I was when I wrote that at all. Maybe I was thinking that sometimes, or maybe they were taking it too far. I don't know exactly why I answered that way. I'd have to probably try to remember where my mind was at that time, or did I witness something or see something, or I just can't fully answer as to why I would write that, because something must have happened or triggered me or that, because usually I don't, like I said, all lives matter to me. It doesn't matter who they are, what they are, they all matter because we're all important in this world.
And the question I had was, maybe do you associate that group with property damage or rioting?
No.
And do you believe that if someone was to make the statement that Black Lives Matter or some other lives matter, that they're saying other lives don't matter?
It can be perceived like that, and I think they are just making it, maybe they felt, and I don't know because I'm not Black, to know maybe they felt that they were never heard. And that's why they are coming up with Black Lives Matter, because maybe they felt that they never were seen, they never were heard. And whereas I don't believe that to be true, but I'm not them, and I might see things in a different view.
And so when you say someone could perceive it like that it could mean that they're saying not all lives matter, do you perceive it that way? When you hear that someone say Black Lives Matter, do you perceive that they're saying that not all lives matter?
It can be perceived, whether I perceive it like that. That's a great question. I would probably just tell them that all lives matter again. So maybe I do perceive that they think only Black lives matter.
And then so the next question or series of questions had to do with Blue Lives Matter. And so when you hear someone say Blue Lives Matter, do you perceive that in the same way, that maybe they're saying not all lives matter, only Blue Lives Matter?
I took that to perceive everybody else. Blue lives, well, maybe I'm misinformed. I don't know what Blue Lives Matter mean. But I took that to mean that that's everybody else.
So I should follow up. I mean, what is your understanding of what that means if somebody were to say Blue Lives Matter? What, in your
And
own
have them
words?
clarify, what do they mean by blue? What
Okay.
does blue mean?
Okay. What did you think it meant when you answered the survey?
That meant everybody else.
Everybody else. Did you associate, or have you ever associated that Blue Lives Matter with police officers?
Oh, so that's what that means, is blue means officers. Huh? Say that question again now, please.
Sure. And I think you answered it, but at the time you were filling out the survey, did you have an understanding that Blue Lives Matter actually refers to police officers, blue lives?
I can honestly say no, I didn't perceive it like that because I didn't know what blue meant.
Okay. On the survey, you indicated that you believe that sometimes local police departments will cover up instances of excessive force rather than to correct it. You said you somewhat agreed with that proposition. You recall that?
That's probably based on my witness in the park, because when we were walking down the path and the officer told us to stay back, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of concerned for this one kid. There's like 5 officers, and he said, stay back. And I'm like, okay. So, I mean, that was my only, I've never had any incidents or witnessed anything other than that one incident at all with any police officers at all.
It sounds like that made an impact on you, though. You remember how long ago that was?
It was last summer, August, September. It was a really nice day. We were out walking. We were just out for a long time. We were out for a long walk, and that was just, something happened right in front of me, which I've never been witness to, and that's probably why it's stuck with me, because it's my only incidents that I've seen.
When the officer, so you indicated that you saw something that concerned you, but the officer told you to stay back and repeated it?
Correct.
How did it make you feel when the officer said that to you?
Kind of like I didn't matter, that I was concerned with the particular boy that was being harassed, is how I looked at it. That I should stay out of mind your own business type of thing.
And you said that the officer said this twice. Did you attempt to argue with him or ask a question?
No, I'm not in any position to argue with an officer. I just stayed back.
Okay. Do you know why he said it twice, or?
To probably make his point across.
Okay.
I don't know.
It wasn't in response to you asking a question or attempting to assert
I
yourself?
just was, like I said, I was walking up to him and he said, "Stay back." And I said, "Well, I just concerned for that kid." And he said, "Stay back."
Okay.
And so I did.
Okay. Sometimes when I ask a question, people tell me I'm arguing, so I just needed to clarify. Not you.
No.
All right. Do you have any concerns with the precautions we have here, the plexiglass and mask wearing and whatnot? Do you feel that we've adequately taken steps to reduce the risk of COVID-19?
Yes, you have.
Okay. Do you think it's enough or maybe even too far?
One cannot be too cautious.
One moment, Your Honor.
Well, since they're quiet, yesterday one of my friends is gonna lose his job because he got seen in one of my videos. Or I don't know, but he'd been put on leave because of one of my videos, so kind of upset me a little bit last night.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your work as an executive assistant, what it is you specifically do, without naming your employer, giving any identifying information?
Yeah, I work as an executive assistant in a clinic in Minneapolis, and I assist the VP and director of our actual building. So I work with a lot of her meetings and his meetings, just going over things and issues that happen across our building. That's pretty much sums up my role.
Okay. And so you're working with someone in a sort of an administrative position, you're not working with a physician?
I work with physicians only if it has to do with meetings and such, not on a day-to-day basis do I get in touch with them.
Okay.
I know who they are, but I don't work with them on a direct basis at all.
So, for example, working specifically with cardiologists or pulmonologists?
No, not on a daily, only if it has to do with a meeting request, and then I usually reach out to their assistants.
Is it fair to say that you do have and place trust in police officers?
I have placed trust, and that's their role, and that's, I have nothing but to believe that until they show me something different.
And so with that, understanding that in this case, there'll be law enforcement officers who will be called to testify. There will be civilian bystanders who will be called to testify. And you would be asked to judge their credibility to determine whether or not one should be believed or another one should be believed. And based on your trust in police officers, I just need to ask you if you would be able to look at the testimony of a police officer in the same manner that you would look at the testimony of some other witness who wasn't a police officer, perhaps a bystander.
Absolutely. Doesn't matter. Their uniform doesn't change who they are.
You don't think that you might tend to believe a police officer more simply because they are a police officer?
Not necessarily.
All right. Thank you very much. Your Honor will pass for cause.
I figured that was happening.
Jury number 55, you will be on this jury.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So-
wait, never mind.
You can go about your business until March 29th at 9 a.m., which is when we anticipate starting the trial itself.
Okay.
And so we will be in contact probably to remind you or to tell you if things have been delayed. I think you've already realized sometimes there are delays.
Yes.
And we apologize for that, but it's just the way things happen. So we do appreciate your time here. And the deputy will take some stuff from you on the way out, but unless you hear from us otherwise, March 29th at 9 a.m., you'll be escorted to that same courtroom to wait.
Okay, so I come in, like, do I have to be
Same process as today, same places where to park, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
All the same, and you'll go to the same courtroom to start off with.
Okay,
All right?
sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. This is going to be jury 56. And we may not be able to get through jury 56 completely, but we'll give it a try. Morning, sir.
Morning.
You have a seat right there.
Okay, just put this right here.
Yep, wherever you can find space. All right. Well, thank you for being here this morning. And I'm going to first thing swear you in so that all your answers are under oath. So if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully answer all questions about your qualifications to serve as a juror?
I do.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to ask that you speak into the microphone if
Okay.
you can.
Yep.
I'm going to keep my mask on.
Okay.
We have plexiglass between us, plexiglass in front of you, plexiglass in front of the attorneys.
Yep.
So that's sufficient for us to say, if you'd like to take your mask off to
Okay.
be more comfortable.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine that you can do that. All right. Before I turn it over to the attorneys, I want to ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
First of all, everything true on your questionnaire?
Yes.
All right. Any changes or additions you can think of offhand?
There is one,
Okay?
and that was in regards of knowing a police officer.
Okay.
I
Tell us
put
about
in my
that.
questionnaire that I didn't. Well, at the time, I thought he was no longer in the force. But
Okay.
it come to my attention that he is now still on the force.
Okay. And do you know which police department this person is on?
I don't know what, Minneapolis, but I don't know what precinct.
Okay. All right. And I think you've just illustrated one thing we find is that people fill out a questionnaire in December and then on reflection, they realize there are things, oh,
Correct.
I probably should have put this in or I found out new information.
Yeah, at the time, I didn't know.
Okay.
It came to my attention, a family member let me know that he did.
He was let go and then he got back on the force.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else you can think of that might be you want to change or add to? Because it's all right actually if you even change something.
Right.
Opinions evolve, facts come to light that you think show that something was inaccurate. The most important thing is that you just give us as accurate and as honest an answer.
I mean, there are some things that come to my attention, you know, that I've heard
Right.
on the television. It was hard for me to get away with watching the television because of where I'm located at work at the break room. They always have a TV in there.
And I think you've kind of anticipated my next question is, you're told in the questionnaire to avoid all media coverage of
Correct.
this.
And to my best I could.
Right. It's not uncommon from the jurors we've talked to find that inadvertently people have been exposed to more information about the case. They see something on TV, a quick headline, or in the newspapers.
Right.
So tell us first of all what you know about the case.
Well, I know what I've seen on the video.
All right. Have you watched the video a few times?
I've watched it twice in its length.
The whole thing?
The whole thing, yes.
Have you sought out that video, or did it just when it came up on the news?
When it came up on the news.
All right. What facts do you recall from watching the video?
Well, I know the facts that the officer had his knee on his neck
Okay.
for over 8 minutes.
Okay.
And I know there was other officers
Okay.
there at the moment. Yep,
All right. And you formed some opinions based on what you've seen and heard.
correct.
I'm going to focus now on, since you filled out the questionnaire and today, what have you heard or seen? And again, we acknowledge that sure you did your best to avoid it, but some things are unavoidable.
Right.
What information have you found out about this case or
What-
anything related to this
Okay,
case?
what I did hear is that there was a potential plea,
Okay.
but the Attorney General denied that plea.
Okay.
And I also know that the third degree was put back on the table.
Okay. And so these are like headlines you've seen and
Yes.
things like that. Okay. Do you think you could still presume somebody innocent when you've got maybe more information than you wanted? about
Sure,
it?
yes.
You can still presume the defendant innocent, or do you think now?
Well, from what I've seen, it would be tough.
Okay. All right. Let me talk to the lawyers just for a second.
You know, it's gonna be hard for this cop. I mean, a liberal freaking city, right? No bargain hunting today. It's raining outside, and I got this stuff. I got some other stuff going on, so not today. I gotta get caught up on all the stuff I already have to sell. My house is getting overwhelmed.
All right. Juror 56, I'm going to release you from this panel. It's not your fault that you inadvertently got exposed to things that would make it tough to be
Right.
sitting as a juror on this case. Because, like I say, you're in your work situation that
In the break room, it's hard to turn off the TV when everybody else is watching it.
and you can't. And we told you don't tell anybody you're a potential juror, so you can't say turn that off. I don't
No,
know.
I wasn't about to do that.
All right, and so because of that, obviously not your fault, but I'm going to release you from service on this panel. And
Okay.
so, in fact, you're released from jury service. So unless you get a summons in the future, you'd be fine.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, have a good day. And that just gives me-
You actually give to the deputy, and he'll take care of it. All right, it's 5 to 12. We've run out of jurors, so we're getting better at calibrating how many jurors we have. Although I still feel like a cat chasing a laser pointer. But nevertheless, I think we have no choice but to recess until 1:30. The jurors are summoned for 1. We've got 3, so I think 1:30 would be just fine that we start. All right? See you at 1:30.
Well, that was quick. I didn't realize they were going to go to lunch so quick. So I guess we are going to be back at 1:30, folks. We'll just be back at 1:30, and nothing we can do until then, right? I mean, that's what, 2.5 hours away. So that's going to be 11, actually an hour and a half away, I should say. So, yeah, we'll see what's going on then. And I'll be back. So if you guys want to continue watching this hearing, I don't know, do you guys ever watch that show Bull on TV? This is kind of like watching Bull right now, this section where they're picking the jury and trying to figure it out. But, alright guys, so I'm going to end this for now, and then we'll come back at, let's see, an hour and a half from now. I'll be live again, and then we can finish watching the rest of today's trial.